Class of 20. Thank you for inviting us to share some thoughts on drip irrigation with you this evening. We will be introducing you to the concept of residential drip irrigation. Our presentation is meant to be an overview, a starting point. We will not get into anything too complicated, nor will we be addressing specific irrigation problems and solutions. To begin, we'll talk about the most common means of residential irrigation here in the Pacific Northwest with their relative advantages and disadvantages. Then we will delve deeper, specifically into the drip irrigation method. Where do the concepts start? Where is it most useful? What are the components involved? What are its advantages and challenges? What about the cost? Is it difficult to get started? By the end of the presentation, you will have a jumping off point to consider the applicability of a drip irrigation system for your own specific situation.
We need to share. What are you sharing?
No, let's share.
Are you sharing?
Yes.
Okay.
No, we need to share. Let's put share
Okay.
on.
Just a moment, please. Okay, should I go to the next one?
Okay.
That looks good.
Yeah, one more. We need to get over so I can move it.
Okay, go ahead. Okay, let me go down.
First, we can let nature do the watering. The key concept here is that the ample Washington rain will provide enough water at optimum times to keep all the landscaping watered and happy, all without lifting a finger. We're from Northern California. Several years ago, we bought our property in January and still maintaining our house in Sonoma County. We visited Washington every 2 months or so. By spring, the landscaping on our new property was lush and green. But when we visited in August, all the grass was brown and several of our hydrangeas were wilted and clearly dying. We were shocked. We weren't expecting that. The Pacific Northwest does have a rainy season, as most out-of-staters know. But in the summer, when water is most needed for crop growth and plant health, rain is not always forthcoming. Bottom line, especially with the climate changes we are seeing, we cannot always depend on Mother Nature. Sprinkler systems. Most commonly and usefully used on grassy lawns and turf, or when you have a large swath of plants of the same sort. Overhead watering, either by sprinkler or manually. This is a very inefficient way to water. Up to 30% of the water is wasted. You have a higher potential of evaporation and wind drift. It waters both crops and weeds. There is a high possibility for runoff and erosion, and particularly here in the Pacific Northwest, it can facilitate foliar, leaf, pathogens such as mildew. Soaker hoses. Soaker hoses are a popular way to water perennial beds, shrubs, and trees, efficiently delivering the moisture right to the roots of fruits and vegetables. They're so inexpensive, you can buy several and leave them snaked around throughout your landscape. However, connecting more than 2 of them together will cause a loss in pressure as the hose extends, rendering it ineffective. And they're composed of reconstituted rubber and deteriorate quickly, especially if exposed to sunlight. Expect them to fall apart in 1.5 to 2 years. And then, ta-da, we have drip irrigation. But just what is that? Drip irrigation is a type of micro irrigation system that allows water to drip slowly to the roots of plants, The goal is to place water directly into the root zone and minimize evaporation. Okay. Honey,
What?
I can't do it. Yeah. Drip irrigation systems distribute water through a network of valves, pipes, tubing, and emitters, and is also called trickle irrigation. Just where did drip irrigation start? Primitive drip irrigation has been used since ancient times. In China, during the 1st century, for example, farmers used unglazed clay pots filled with water. The systems we use now owe their existence primarily to Israel. Simcha Bloss and his son Yeshayahu developed the plastic emitter. They started a company called Netafim in 1965, and it's still going. In fact, 2020 revenues were over $1 billion. What are the advantages of drip irrigation? 1, there is little water loss due to evaporation or runoff. Robert Kurek, in his book, Drip Irrigation for Every Landscape and All Climates, which we heartily recommend to you, wrote, drip irrigation does conserve plenty of water. Estimates and studies range from 50% to 70% savings. Conserving fresh water supplies has become a national issue. Water conservation is no longer the concern of just a few isolated drought-stricken communities in the West. While water may not always be scarce everywhere in the country, a supply of fresh, clean water is no longer a given. Second advantage, it can operate on very low pressure systems, such as gravity. 3, it is the most efficient water and nutrient delivery system for growing crops, delivering water and nutrients directly to the plant's root zone in the right amounts at the right time, so each plant gets exactly what it needs to grow optimally. This means that you can water different plants in the same area at different rates. It avoids over-irrigation. It facilitates weed and pest control. We should note that because of its efficient water delivery system, there may be more weeds around the base of the target plant. Cost. For a small home garden, it may cost as little as $50 to install, depending on the size and difficulty of your project. 6, because drip irrigation aims directly for the roots, your plants will be healthier than, for example, if you used overhead watering, and you will not have to worry about drift, wind carrying water away, soil erosion, or wet leaves, which can lead to problems such as mildew or disease. 7, it's portable. You can change the layout of your garden and simply reconfigure your system. We actually have an example of that right now. We're coming to you from Utah, which, by the way, is celebrating Pioneer Day. It's a state holiday today. Came to visit grandchildren, and we have a man redoing our deck, and he is the slowest man on the planet. He's not, he's a handyman, and the many plants that were on our deck have been off the deck waiting to be returned to the deck for almost 4 weeks now. And I think he may be getting closer to the end. We shall see. But meanwhile, if they were just sitting there, they would have died long ago. But John dripped them all. He simply reconfigured it, reconfigured the tubing. And so now they're on the timer, and presumably when we get home, they'll still be alive, and hopefully we'll have finished, and we will be able to put them on the deck and resume our lives. 8, flexibility. Your plantings can be quite a distance away from each other and be linked with the same timer simply by running drip hose. 9, it's easy to fix because the tubing is on top of the ground. 10, it's suitable for any type of land. But what are the challenges for a drip irrigation system? 1, there is a learning curve involved. You will need to familiarize yourself with the components typically used in a drip irrigation system, as well as the principal elements of system design. 2, if you don't have a good filter system, emitters can clog up. So remember to put filtration in from the beginning. 3, if you have an extensive project, initial costs will be higher. 4, there will be some ongoing maintenance. Much of your system will be automatic, but you still need to pay attention. In contrast to something like overhead watering, you may not notice if a plant is not getting enough water unless you check regularly. Then you can adjust your irrigation system accordingly. Author Robert Couric writes, for some gardeners, the act of standing out in the garden near sunset and watching the moon rise, listening to the mockingbird warble and rhythmically swaying back and forth with a handheld sprinkler is more valuable than any form of therapy or meditation. For these people, drip irrigation may be counterproductive. So where does drip irrigation work best? Drip irrigation is primarily used in planting beds. You can drip vegetable gardens and row crops, flower beds, roses, trees and shrubs, container plants, hanging baskets, boxes, and it is particularly good for mulched areas because it can directly soak the soil without washing away the mulch. Raised drip lines are often used with row crops such as blueberries, which we have a lot of. I guess not up at Heritage Farms right now, but normally, and grapes. Keeping the tubing off the ground reduces damage by pesky critters. Drip irrigation is not suitable for lawns. So here are some examples from our yard. This is a flower and vegetable garden. With flowers and shrubs, of course, the idea is for the drip system to be as inconspicuous as possible. This is the side of the house. Poly tubing goes along the foundation of the house with drip line watering the hydrangeas. Incidentally, a side note, the hydrangeas this row of hydrangeas was one of the last, it was later to be dripped. I looked outside and it was during a hot period and noticed that particularly those ones down at the end had aphids in them. So, one of the problems with not receiving enough water is that the plant is, very open. It's susceptible to pests like that. So it was kind of like an example before my eyes. And since it's been dripped, no problems at all. And this is what it looks like. There's a T from the house marked with a red arrow that feeds the hydrangeas. And also you notice that T coming out from the house, it goes to this island bed. I tried to get a photograph of that offshoot line, but in the 2 years since it was installed, the grass has grown over it completely and it is now hidden. And, we can mow and it's, it's completely invisible. There's this pot here And you can notice that the far side, on the far side of it, it's dripped with 1/4 inch tubing. If you think ahead at the time of planting, you can place the drip tubing through the drain hole in the bottom, up through the dirt, and finish off with an emitter at the base of the plant. Then you will have absolutely nothing visible externally. This is our back deck, which presumably is being transformed as we speak. And you will notice that these are all dripped because, of course, they need to be they need to be watered very frequently and fertilized. John has you can kind of see with the arrows where the 1/4 inch spaghetti is. Okay, I can't, you moved it.
What?
I can't get to that page.
That's
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so what are the principal components of a drip irrigation system? Let's take a look closer at most of the common components. The purpose of this is to demystify a bit the process of putting together your own drip irrigation system. The main components of a drip irrigation system are the main line, valve, backflow preventer, pressure regulator, filter, tubing, adapters and fittings, drip tubing, emitters, and end caps.
I can't.
Okay. The main line is the pipe that runs from the water source, typically your faucet, to the valve. Should we go?
I can't.
Okay, next. Okay. The valve controls, indicated by the orange arrow, control the water flow into the system and can be set for either automatic or manual control. This system has a manual timer in yellow. The filter in purple keeps particles in your water from clogging emitters over time. The system has no backflow preventer. Backflow preventers ensure that irrigation water doesn't flow back into the pipes of your house and contaminate your main water source. Pressure regulators are needed if the water pressure is over 40 pounds per square inch. Tubing adapters, fittings are used to attach the drip tubing to the rest of the system. The two standard sizes of tubing are 1/2 inch and 1/4 inch. Here is 1/2 inch. These 1/2 inch connectors allow you flexibility in configuring your 1/2 inch hoses, which are the arteries of your system. As you can see, you can join 2 hoses together, create a 90-degree T offshoot line, or even a corner using an elbow. They go by different names such as Permalock, Easy Lock, and are easy to install and screw on. The figure 8 on the top right will close off the tubing whenever you want to end it. 1/4 inch tubing is also called spaghetti and is used between the arteries and the plants. The super flexible tubing is easiest to work with. You can buy it with inline emitters at spacings of 6, 9, or 12 inches. And this is ideal for row planting. And connecting sections of 1/4 inch drip line to each other or to the larger 1/2 inch poly using the hole punch at the right. Okay, so where's the hole punch?
Out there.
Okay. Sorry about that. We'll show it later. The top black part is, okay, here we
There.
are. I'm sorry. Okay. So there is, we showed you the drip line, and then there's the half-inch poly, and
There's the punch
there's the punch.
on the right.
The black part is at the middle top is called a goof plug. It's called goof plug because it's made for stopping up unwanted holes in case you mess up. And in half-inch poly or terminating a section of 1/4 inch tubing. The colors of the emitters on the left correspond to different flow rates. So for instance, the top green is like 2 gallons per minute, 2 gallons per hour. The black is 1 gallon per hour, and the bottom red is 1/2 gallon per hour flow rates. So this means you can choose your emitters based on how much you want each plant to get. This means that on the same line, you can use different emitters, customizing the flow needs of each plant. This is what a horseshoe looks like to secure both a 1/2 inch and 1/4 inch tubing. They are available in 6 and 9 inch lengths. Let's take a look at how these two types of tubing interact. The red arrow shows the 1/2 inch poly. The yellow shows the 1/4 inch tubing as it connects to the larger poly with a 1/4 inch barbed connector. Okay, and that's with the help of the punch, the 1/4 inch punch, shown at the right. The orange arrows point to an emitter, which will go next to a plant. And finally, we can join 2 lengths of 1/4 inch tubing connected with a 1/4 inch barb connector. Okay, so in case this isn't perfectly clear and that drawing is pretty busy, I'm going to show you a
demo.
a demo.
A demo. So
There
we're
we
going
go.
to lose some of the elegance of our presentation in order for you to be able to see it better.
Okay.
Okay, Aaron,
Yep,
we need
here you go. All right. 1 second. I'm just gonna make it so we can all not have the virtual background so they can see it. So
No worries. This will be
there you
excellent.
go.
Thank you.
All right, what do you got here, Dad?
Okay, we got to stop sharing.
We'll stop sharing. Yeah, go for it. There you go.
Did you stop sharing?
Yep. So everyone right now should be able to see.
Yeah, let's do this one first.
Oh, okay.
Thanks.
Okay,
So,
so yeah.
okay, go ahead.
Can I pause
So
you
this
guys for
is in real life what that
Linda and John?
contraption just showed you was.
Linda?
Okay, first, this is how you would end off the line. Here's the figure 8. So you can see no water is going to be come out of the end. So this is how you'd cap it off. This is the 1/2 inch.
Here, let me turn it this
The
way.
1/2 inch, which is, by the way, very easy to buy. So right here, and this is the artery that we were talking about, the main line. And one of the things you mainly hook into that is this, what we call spaghetti or 1/4 inch.
With a
1/4
bar.
inch. And it's put in here with that punch. You punch a hole in it, and then you'd put a barbed connector in here, and then the other end would go into the 1/4 inch. And you can see that you can go as far as you want, and if you want to extend it,
With
you
another
just put
bar.
another barbed connector in, and you can go as far as you want. Now notice this one actually connects to one of those 1/4 inch that has the inline,
Drip lines.
the inline drip lines, and it sort of bulges out here. And you would normally want to plant your plant close to where the little holes are and the water's coming out. So you can kind of see how that works. You can also put these little buttons, these little emitters directly into the half inch if you want, or you can again extend this line out and put these little buttons on each plant as you go along, depending on how much each plant needs. Down here we have an example of that easy lock. Now learned how to do drip many years ago, and most people didn't know what it was.
It first came out.
Yeah, and what they used to have instead of this easy lock would be like a straight, hard rubber thing that you were somehow supposed to squish the
together.
two ends of the half inch into. And especially for a woman or anyone without amazingly strong hands, it was really, really difficult. You'd sort of have to wait for a hot day, or even use a hair dryer to loosen up this half inch. So when this stuff came out, I mean, it's a little bit more expensive. Oh, thank you, because it is so easy to use. And you can see here it is with a T, very easy to put together. And here it is with an elbow. Okay.
Okay, here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
hopefully you get a better idea of how that works.
And the plants on the patio that Linda mentioned, I was able to use these T's off of some of the little lines and connect them all together so that it was a very easy, quick job for me to drip them all.
John likes it because he's an engineer and it has a design.
Well, it's
function.
kind of like an erector set.
Yeah.
It's
You be
fun,
creative.
you can do what you want. Okay, so I'm going to show you a little bit. Go ahead.
Yeah, here's his magic irrigation box, or I should say one of many he has around.
This is just an idea. You guys can find something that maybe works better for you, maybe a fishing box or something.
Yeah, now say, John, so what's this?
This is 1/4 inch super flexible tubing.
Yeah, when you buy it, make sure that you get the super flexible because they do sell 1/4 inch that is really hard to bend. And
Yeah, Harmony, we'll show you at the end. But
yeah, but
yeah.
so look for that because it's so much easier to work with. All right, so then we have this.
Okay, this is a horseshoe, and these come in different lengths.
And
Guess what we use this for? Pounding in the horseshoe if it's a hard dirt.
I actually usually just step on it. And then you have a trowel.
Need a trowel.
They always need a trowel. And John, how about this?
Now, these are excellent. We would highly recommend using this particular type of cutter. This cuts through the drip irrigation tubing like butter, and you can use it for many years. And it also, you can use it to fix irrigation problems. You can, anyhow, it's great. So
yeah, it's good for fixing irrigation problems because it cuts, it gives a clean cut.
Yeah.
How about this?
it's a goof plug in case you goof up.
Yeah, or you change your configuration. If you change your configuration and now you have a hole somewhere that you don't want water coming out of anymore, you just poke one of those things in.
And here's one of the T's.
That's called that's called a barbed T if you're doing something. And here's a straight one.
Yeah, here's it's hard to see. This is a straight one for
It's got a barb
1/4
on
inch. Yeah,
both
barb on each
sides.
side.
And how about these, John? You got these little
okay, so
boxes.
we talked about the drip emitters. Okay, so I'll get one out of here. It's kind of hard to see again, but this is black, so that means it's 1 gallon per hour. And I have different ones for different flow rates and these other. This is really nice because, in my opinion, having this ribbon on the punch keeps you from losing it because it can fall in the grass or disappear.
Although we have.
I've
an
never
ent-
lost this
We have
one.
an
but-
entire box of punches,
Yeah,
so
if you need an extra punch, I have one.
that's right. And then there's
Yeah,
those-
pliers for pulling out some of the emitter pieces.
Yeah,
that-
let's say you have an
Yeah.
emitter
It's hard on your hands.
and
that
you
little
want to
thing.
get the emitter out of the 1/2 inch. And it's just not coming in, you're trying to get it with your fingernails. It just will pop right out with a pair of pliers.
And
Oh, yeah, there's an example of that easy lock. So
tell them about.
I love those.
No, about the pitchfork.
Oh, yeah. For example, again, you want to go out and look at your garden. Let's say you're in the garden. This is the sure way you know you've got a problem with your drip irrigation. You get out there and there's this geyser of water coming out somewhere that's going and you notice that someone has put a pitchfork through the 1/2 inch. I don't use a pitchfork, by the way. Anyway,
Or there may
Uh,
be just some guys.
yeah, anyway, for whatever reason. So you just take those little scissors, cut the bad part off, cut those ends off, and then put that, easy lock in between those two ends. And, in about 30 seconds, you've solved the problem. So that's one thing I like about drip irrigation is it's easy to fix once you figure it out.
One final thing,
Oh yeah, gotta have that.
kneeling pad.
Kneeling pad, good. Okay, Aaron, we're ready for we're ready to be elegant again.
All right, let's turn this all back on for you. Let's do that one. Here you go. And then I think that's it.
We need to share.
Yeah, we'll share your screen again. I'll share that one. Okay. Share. While I'm here, there's that. And there you go.
Okay,
So,
let's see
Okay.
here. So, yeah. Okay, you're gonna,
I can't get it. We need to.
okay, here, okay. Is that where we were? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
to
okay. And this is only the beginning of what's out there. So planning and design. If you're going into drip irrigation for the first time, I would recommend you start small. Choose a raised bed or a small garden to get the hang of it. When designing a drip irrigation plan, it's helpful to make a sketch of the layout. Remember to group plants on a drip line that have similar water requirements. In other words, you wouldn't want to have trees on the same drip line as you have your vegetables. Going back to that, use the 1/2 inch main line for your trees and the 1/2 inch main line for your vegetables. Then ask yourself some questions. Where will your water source be? How would you intend to get from the water source to the target plants? How are you going to water each plant grouping? What irrigation supplies will you need? Drip irrigation systems are very forgiving and flexible. You can tweak your system or change your plantings with minimal effort. Basic operation and maintenance. Drip irrigation can be set to run automatically, like sprinklers, or controlled manually. Manual operation allows you to take advantage of rainfall before applying unnecessary water. You should check your filters and emitters on a regular basis to ensure they are functioning properly and not clogged. Filters.
No, not yet.
More importantly, keep an eye on your garden. I remember that being told that every morning I should go outside, take a look around the garden. Do the plants all look healthy? If you check the soil around them, are they getting enough water? And be sure to check that your plants are all being dripped. Look for spurts of water, the surest clue for pools of water around each plant. If left uncorrected, these problems will lower the water pressure and in the whole system so that other plants receive less water or possibly none at all. You can increase or decrease water flow depending on hot or cold weather. First thing in the spring, check your system before beginning to water on a regular basis. In a like manner, you may want to winterize your system before winter sets in. Check the filter regularly. Most filters will be happy with a monthly cleaning. One thing I wanted to mention, I was very concerned when I was first here about winterizing my system, but because the drip lines expand and contract, you just need to unhook the drip from the main water source, and the drip lines themselves will be okay over the winter. Even though they could be ice inside, they won't burst.
But
Okay,
you gotta check it. Yeah.
but it does help. Yeah,
You have to
you should
check the lines.
need to check the line, especially when you start up again in spring. Okay, so Linda is going to take over.
So now that we've learned something about drip irrigation, let's look at a couple of sample gardens, both new to drip. After we gave this presentation for the first time in our speaker group, John Wex in our master gardening class decided to try it for himself. As recommended, he started small. By the end of the summer, he and his wife Carly were both happy with the results. Okay, so there's a before and after.
Oops, sorry.
What's going?
Sorry.
What are you doing? Okay, keep your hands off that. Okay, all right. There we go. That's Carly. That's pretty, and they do have a small garden, but that's what they did that very first year. Last January, my sister B moved to Battleground, and in spring, John installed a basic drip irrigation system in her raised bed. It was very productive. So you may be asking yourself at this point, where do I go from here? There are lots of resources available. Oregon Extension has a lot of information on getting up to speed with drip irrigation. There's the link, and you're going to be able to get this. It's going to be on, it's recorded.
A printout.
Yeah. Well, this is going to be online.
Yeah, anyhow.
And there are lots and lots of YouTube videos. We also rely on a wonderful resource from our hometown in Sebastopol, California, Harmony Farm Supply. They have a robust website with lots of information and will also ship you any components you have difficulty finding here. They have a catalog online.
Yeah, it's a great catalog you can download.
So go to them, especially for the lightweight components like emitters.
Well, and especially the Superflex tubing.
As we have already mentioned, an excellent book for beginners by another Northern California, Robert Couric, is Drip Irrigation for Every Landscape and All Climates. You'll be happy. Yeah, you'll see these resources. And finally, locally, where would you buy these parts? Well, it's easy to get the 1/2-inch poly, the arteries. And you can get spaghetti, whether or not you can get the flexible.
I don't think you can actually, the super flexible, no.
Anyway, Home Depot and Lowe's have drip line sections, and they have some connectors, but not all. Locally, many stores such as Wilco, Ace, Drip Depot, Wright Irrigation Supplies carry basic drip parts. I would bet that it's going to be more and more available. Some of you may know other places to get it. Harmony Farm Supply in Sebastopol is excellent. By far the best mail order source we have found. And Amazon has quite a bit. Many sources also sell kits. It may behoove you to purchase parts separately, since often the quality of some kits is lacking. There's a lot of
Yeah,
sort
it's
of
a,
inferior
let's
stuff out
just
there.
say inferior, yeah,
Yeah.
out of the
John
country.
has taken quite a bit of stuff back. And the kit may include components you don't need and lack others necessary to your proposed system. So, are you ready to design your own drip system now? I think we have a little bit of time for some questions and answers.
Wonderful.
Maybe
I'll go ahead
answers.
and ask folks to
Thank
start
you.
putting,
Thank you.
I'll ask folks to start putting
Oh,
questions
thank you.
into the chat box. John and Linda, that was wonderful.
Stop share,
Mhm.
Aaron.
Yeah, stop sharing.
Okay.
So if you have a question you'd like me to refer to
Stop
John
share.
and
That's
Linda,
you share.
please
Oh,
put
so
it in
stop
the chat box and we can
All
ask.
right. Can
ask
everyone
them.
still hear and see?
Yep, we can.
All right.
Yeah, are they?
All right, we got some questions in the chat. Is that, Erica, do you want to moderate, or, I mean, we can just read through them however it works.
Yes, I'm happy to moderate.
Yeah, Ned,
The-
Erica, you were gonna read a few
Yeah,
questions that had come through on the chat.
yeah, what's in there now is mostly things like,
Are we here?
I can't really hear you, Erica.
yes,
I'm wondering if we lost
I'm gonna moderate. So please,
connection. Are we okay,
Yeah,
Aaron?
we're good on connection. Let's
can you guys hear me?
see what's going on. Huh. Yeah, I can't hear. Hold on a sec.
A moment, please. A technical difficulty here.
All right, we're just gonna switch this to, oh, I can hear you now.
Hi.
There we go. Sorry about that.
Okay, yeah, so some of the items in the chat box were just either comments or notes. But I do see a question that has come in. It says, what color emitters do you personally use for your hydrangea?
Actually, can I answer that?
Yeah,
Okay. What I did instead of using emitters, because there's so many, is I used the drip line. So I just ran like the 12-inch space drip line along the hydrangeas. Or if you want to get, more water to your hydrangeas, if they're more in the sun, use the 1/2 inch, and it's got the inline emitters, and that's really cheap. You can buy that at Home Depot, and that's a good way to go.
So John, I think the question was about how many gallons per hour, maybe, with regard to when she's asking about the color.
Oh,
she's-
okay. So yeah, the different colors. The green is,
yeah, for hydrangeas,
oh, for hydrangeas.
but you didn't do it that way.
I didn't really do it that way, but it's equivalent what I did. It's easier to just, I guess, depending on how far the, so in an inline emitters on the 1/4 inch are spaced 6 inches, 9 inches, and a foot apart. So I think I may have used 6-inch spacing on the hydrangeas to give them more water.
Well, you mean
Yes.
you've gone around them.
No, I didn't go around. I
Oh,
just
it's-
went straight.
oh.
But
But
those
we
are
have
the
a line
ones,
of it.
tho-
That's because we have a row of them.
that's right, because we have a row of them. If you want to make sure you have more water, you can simply, run a circle around it
Yeah,
And-
that works really well.
and terminate it with a goof plug. And
Great.
then, yeah, so that's the best way. If you find out and then you come back, it's an iterative process. You come back and you say, oh, it's too wet, or it's not wet enough, and you
Yeah.
can just cut,
You can tweak it.
put a goof plug in, you're done.
Okay, yeah, that kind of speaks to the next question, which is how do you determine what emitter to put for each plane? And the example is, let's say you have an azalea and an andina in a raised bed. So that's more about quantity and timing, I think.
It's also, as John says, iterative. And that's why you have to really keep an eye on things. One of the problems we have is that we have really low pressure of water.
Yeah.
We're on a well and up a little bit high. And so you may put an emitter there that you think is gonna, really pump out the water and it doesn't. And so you have to, come up with something
Yeah,
different.
I want to say something about that. You don't have to make your system exactly to the specification. We have like 2,000 feet of half-inch poly going around our property for the certain, because it's inconvenient from the water source. And so long as you are allow enough time for drip at the farthest end of the pipe, which is your worst case, then it doesn't matter if, say, the pressure is, instead of being 30 psi, is 10 psi, it'll always drip. It's just a matter of it being
Right,
on
it's just
longer,
slower.
and it'll be slower, but it'll always work. So,
But the thing is, it's so easy to swap something out. If you're watching it
yep,
and I don't know how many times I've gone and I said, well, this should be, according to the specs, should be watering it, and you go out there and it's dry. So, then you're gonna have to bump it up.
yeah. So typically to bump it up, what I usually do, instead of using one of the emitters, which concentrates all the water in one exact spot, let's say there's a tomato that isn't getting enough water, I'll take one of those inline drip hoses that are the 1/4 inch, and that's every 6 inches has an emitter, and I'll just run a circle around it. So I have, say, 7 emitters. So then it would be 7 gallons per minute, which you can't even buy emitters like that, but then you can just make your own. And it's a inline drip line.
It's a creative
Yeah,
process.
it's just a very easy, make a circle, put a couple of those horseshoes in, and you've got your plant dripped.
Okay, so there
Did
may,
that answer the question? It depends really on where your plant is and how much water is getting to your plant and how much you think you need for your plant. And then you just tweak it.
Yeah, and if you want something very sort of mathematical and scientific, you can get that book by Robert Corrick, and it explains with a lot more detail how to calculate, what goes where. But you can, well, yeah, we have, and sometimes you have to tweak it. Like we have some dahlias in the front that just had those button emitters, and they did nothing last year. They were so dry. And we put them back in, and John went in and he put a little circle around it. So they got more water, and they look like way better now. So, it's iterative. You go and you say, this part of the garden is not doing what I wanted to do, and then you can tweak it. It's easy to do.
Yeah, and especially too, because, some of your plants are going to be in the sun, some of them aren't.
Yeah.
And some, you'll put them on different lines than others, depending on, like we talked about, trees will be on different lines, say blueberries will be on different lines, roses, the different types of, things that you want to water, you would want to think about that and put those on different lines. It's very easy it sounds hard, but it's very easy to do, and you can buy.
Just start small.
Yeah, just start small with something that you can do and then work up. Right now, I have a number of different lines coming off of one faucet, and it's all controlled, and that's why we're able to go on vacations.
Yeah. And yes, Judy, you can walk on the tubing. It's very, you don't have to worry about it collapsing.
Oh, one other thing I wanted to mention too, you can even, once you put those horseshoes down, the tubing will eventually become part of the grass or whatever it's over, so you can mow over it, and no problems of cutting the tubing.
And let's see, and the goof plug, there's a round sort of domed end of it, and that's obviously the one that does not go in the line.
That's the one you hold, and
Yeah, it'll be obvious.
Yeah. Any other things?
Yeah, there's a couple more questions. One is, can you talk about emitters for hanging baskets? What's the best known method?
Okay. Yeah, so
You did the circle.
well, I did both.
Okay.
Okay, so yes, hanging baskets in general dry out really easily,
Oh, yeah, you know that, like in a day, they'll be,
right? So they need more frequent watering, and they need, because you're going to have the 1/4-inch drip hose go up to where the hanging basket is, it's going to have lower pressure. So I, generally speaking, I wouldn't use necessarily just a emitter. You could put several emitters in, but I would again take that 1/4-inch tubing that's spaced every 6 inches, which is the minimum you can do, and run it around, maybe get 6 emitters, and then terminate it with a goof plug and run that like super flexible tubing down to your main line. And
Yeah.
that's the way I did
and
it.
then just make sure you fertilize it. Something like, I don't know. I'm experimenting with Osmocote this year, because you have to know that if you keep watering it, then the nutrients are gonna seep out.
Let's see.
So,
And-
yeah, there's a question about, do you have your drip on rainbird control? So you have to input how many times the water is on. How do you deal with that? And then do you have your drip irrigation on once or twice a day?
So,
Oh, the engineer has now come out and
yeah, well, okay, so I can put in a suggested irrigation controller that I actually bought one on eBay for like $30 that is like a $300 model, but it's really easy to use, and you can I have mine set up for 8 zones, and you can actually run a couple different ones at the same time if you have enough pressure. And we don't have much pressure, but we still can do that.
or if it's really hot, you can just say, run all of them consecutively for X number of minutes.
Yeah, you can. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a really nice controller. You can push a manual, it's kind of called semi-automatic, and you push this button and it goes through your whole thing as if you started right now. As soon as you hit that button, it goes through them. So if it's a hot day, like she said, you can push that button and it'll restart that whole cycle.
Or you can just have that manual timer like we showed you on every hose, every
Yeah.
faucet that's connected to everything near there, and then just go, I'm gonna turn it on for half an hour. I mean,
Yeah.
that is a very cheap way
Yeah,
to do it if you want to start small.
yeah, that's a good way to start at $10, and you got yourself a timer, and you can do
Just
that.
Go out there and check it and say, I guess I'll turn it on now and they say of course, do it in the morning is the best time to do it.
Yeah, so as far as actual timers and stuff, you can go like the one I was talking about. You can get any kind of timer you want, and Rainbird sells that stuff, but you can even go so sophisticated as you can get ones that predict the weather and turn it on accordingly and all that.
But start at rather than get all like,
don't get all wrapped
this is like,
around.
so
We
get
don't.
some little manual timer,
Start
look it on
small.
there, and then just turn it on and play with it, and
Yeah, this
get
is
started that way.
the best way to do it is to start small. Don't get
Well, like the Wex, and I know I saw Carly, I don't know, they're John's here, but they did a great job and it worked out well. I don't know if they had any challenges doing it, but they started small and it worked out great.
You don't want to get yourself overwhelmed with all the details and stuff. It's really simple. There aren't that many parts. And, if you have the rector set mentality, you can start playing with this stuff. And, if you have any questions, you can let us know and we'll see what we can
Or
do.
get that book.
Yeah,
Because what I like about the book is the guy's got a sense of humor. So it's not dry.
So we do have one question more that I want to get to, but I want to just encourage folks to remember that the presenters did mention that there's a learning curve, and it
Yes.
seems that once you set up your system, you'll start to get a feel for how much water it's going to put out and whether you want to
right.
add
right.
emitters or plug them up, or make changes as you add plants or take away plants. So I'd like to end with the last question, which is kind of a troubleshooting one. And it is, I put a drip system to water my fruit trees. They're on a slope. Coming out of the main pipe, I put a long soaker hose about 1/4 inch thick around each tree. I noticed that water is just not getting out. Just a few drips. What is wrong and what should I do?
You don't use so.
No, we don't. I just go back to this and say, soaker hose is very, how do you say, very lossy, you might say, in terms of water. So if you put water in a soaker hose, you're going to lose a ton of water in a very short amount of time. But that being said, as far as troubleshooting, I would go from your main source to where the start of the soaker hose goes and make sure you have good pressure where the soaker hose initially connects. And then from that point, check your soaker hose. I would, check it just like you would a sprinkler or anything else that's connected. Make sure that you have sufficient pressure at the point at which you want the water to come out. And if you don't, or if there's a clog or there's some problems, I mean, we had some garden hose that actually had some, would you say, some gunk inside of it. And so the thing that really worked out well is to use one of those filters, big filters right in front of the, essentially where the drip line would be, or the soaker hose. So
The big deal is I don't have any experience with soaker hoses.
So
I mean, but we've got our fruit trees dripped.
yeah, everything's dripped. Our fruit trees are dripped with those circular,
Yeah,
and
it works. And because you've got the little drips, they just go bing, 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 bing. And
yeah, but for instance, with our trees, they're being dripped with maybe at least 1,000-foot 1/2-inch poly, and we have plenty of water. We just, you just leave it on for 4 hours or 6 hours.
you don't water it. I mean, you don't water it anywhere near
No,
as often
once a week.
because they're fairly new.
But
Well, this is a fascinating subject, John and Linda, and it's 7:01, so we're going to go ahead and end it there. I want to thank you both for the amount of time and energy you put into this. It was wonderful. And in the future, we'd love to have you do this in person so you can bring all of these parts and actually just really show folks.
Missing those
that's
parts.
great. We could have students come up, I mean,
No.
and start putting together their own.
That's
trips.
right. I did mention that the talk has been recorded and will be available on the Clark County Master Gardener website in a day or two. And while I have folks, I just want to let you know about a couple of upcoming events you might be interested in. I've pasted a little information in the chat box. We have some guided tours of the 78th Street Heritage Farm coming up. We've got 3 dates, July 28th, August 6th, and August 16th. And I've put a link to the first one since it's coming up so quickly. It's just a couple of days away. And these are small tours. So if you will click on that link, that'll take you right to the registration site. But I would ask that you register only if you're sure you can make it. As I mentioned, they're very small groups. And then I also want to let you know, we've got a workshop coming up on naturescaping and an interactive one with the Camas Library on pollinators. So please feel free to take a look at our website and check out the upcoming events, or send me an email and I'm happy to put you on my mailing list. So
I just want to thank you all for your attendance. Yeah, very much appreciate that.
Thank you.
thanks, and everyone have a good night.
Thank you.
Bye now.